So now, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, we are going to work on the IELTS writing exam task number 1, summary writing. The first thing to be known is steps involved in the answer. Steps involved in the answer. Steps involved in the answer. And the first step, the step number 1, I name it like idea design. Step number 1 में what we do? Step number 1 में what we do? We design the idea. We design ideas. We design ideas. We design idea. Actually, we look into the picture. We look at the picture and we make a mind that what we will write here in this picture. What are the important points that we need to cover? What are the important figures to be included? What are the important names to be considered? What are the elements given in the picture? We highlight those all things, we circle them out, and it is step number 1 is known as designing of idea. It is the first step. And we spend 2 minutes. We spend 2 minutes here on this step. Only 2 minutes we spend upon the idea generation or design idea. Okay. So now step number 2. Step number 2 in the summary writing is known as the introduction writing. It is introduction writing. It is introduction writing. And in introduction writing, what we do? Number 1, we use paraphrasing method. We use paraphrasing method. What is paraphrasing method? Paraphrasing method is known as rewording. Rewording method. What is rewording method? What we do in rewording method? We reword the first sentence of the question and we add title of the picture therein to design our introduction. Our introduction. We do not try to make introduction by ourselves. What is the reason of it? If we will try to design introduction of ourselves, what will happen? We will spend more time. We will be on a more stronger risk to make the vocabulary errors. We would be on a more stronger risk of the grammar as well. So to design a quick introduction in minimum possible time, we will use paraphrasing or rewording method in IELTS summary exam. So introduction writing, number 1, we use the paraphrasing method. Use present tense throughout in introduction. So while designing the introduction, use the present tense in the introduction. Do not use the past tense even if the data is older. It is not a problem. Number 3, spend only 2 minutes on this introduction, and this will be having 1 para only. 1 para only. So introduction will be of 1 para only, and a good introduction works on about 35 words plus minus 5 can be. So now step number 3 in summary writing. Step number 3 in summary writing is overview. Step number 3 in summary writing is the overview. Writing the overview. Writing the overview. So now, overview. Indeed, this is exactly a quick refresher. A quick refresher. Quick refresher of the picture. That means it is as something like conclusion. We just write here what we have seen. For an example, we have seen the trends, we have seen changes, we have seen patterns. We just write the trends, variables, changes, and patterns in the write-up. We do not go into any detail. We just include, we just include. Number one, trends in the picture. We just include changes that we have observed. We just write the variables given in the picture. We just write about the trends in variables. Trends of the variables would be more stronger word. Trends of the variables. Number two, we just write about the changes in variables. We should use present tense in the first sentence of the overview. Use present tense in the first sentence of the overview. Use past tense in all remaining sentences. If data is older, use present tense only if data does not contain any previous year. Number 4, or the number next. Always start with a word. Always start with a word. Overall, we should spend 3 minutes. Spend 3 minutes in maximum. 3 minutes in maximum on the overview. A smart overview, normal length, reaches up to 45 words. So it is about the overview. So what is overview of? What is step number 2? Is writing the overview. What happens in the overview? In overview, what happens? In overview, we just work on writing the overview. It is a quick refresher like a conclusion. We just mentioned trend changes and the variables of the picture that we are seeing in the question. Now, if we talk about the overview writing, what happens? We use the present tense for the first sentence of the overview. This can even be the active voice. This can even be the passive voice. Active voice. I play hockey. Hockey is played by me. There are 3 variables. There are 3 transportation networks. There are, or the picture contains, there are 2 type of words, the sentence we can make. The picture contains 3 transportation modes. Overall, 3 transportation modes are demonstrated in the picture. The first one was in the active voice, the second one was in the passive voice, but both are the present tense and both can make the sense. Both are acceptable by the examiner. There is no problem at all. So we can start writing the overview with the passive, with the active, but we should write the first sentence in the present tense. All of the remaining sentences will be in the past tense if the data is older. If data does not contain any year, we can write every specific sentence in the present tense. There is no problem at all. We always start the overview with a word overall, and then we should spend just 3 minutes maximum. We should spend 3 minutes on the overview, and a normal length of a solid smart overview goes up to 45 words. So it is what the second step in writing, the second step of the writing of the summary of the IELTS writing task number 1. Step number 3, after overview, we enter into step number 3, and this step number 3 is known as, the explanation writing. It is explanation writing. Explanation writing. Explanation writing. So on this one, overview, number last, one para only. One para only. So overview will contain only one para. So now explanation writing, step number 3, explanation writing. This will contain 2 paragraphs. 2 paragraphs. 2 paragraphs. Para 1. Para 1. This will contain, includes details of each and every step of half picture. For an example, there are 4 variables given in the picture. 2 variables are explained in paragraph number 1 of explanation. 2 are explained in paragraph number 2 of explanation. If there are 3 variables, 2 we explain in first para, 1 we explain in the second para. If there are 5 variables, 3 we explain in the first para, 2 we explain in the second para. So there are 2 paragraphs of the explanation. Para 1 include detail of each and every step of the half picture. Number 2, we spent 5 minutes. We spent 5 minutes. Number 3, we use past tense if data is old, and we use present tense if data does not contain any year. So now paragraph number 2. Paragraph number 2. So this paragraph number 2 includes the details of every step of leftover area of the picture. Leftover area of the picture. Number 2, again, we spent 5 minutes on this. Number 3, use past tense if data is older. Use present tense. Present tense if data does not contain any date or year. Any date or year. We enter into step number 4. Rather, we are in step number 5. It is step number 1, 2, 3. It is step number 4 is explanation. I'm sorry. And we enter into step number 5 now. And the last and the final step, step 5. Step number 5 is named as review. What we do in the review? We recall, we revise, we read the whole answer and identify with correction if there is any error. If there is any error of spelling or grammar or articles or punctuations, we correct them, because if we will not review the answer, all errors that we have committed will go straight forwardly to the examiner, and definitely these will The damaging our band overall in exam, and the damaged band means the errors of spelling, errors of the error of the grammar, error of the punctuation will cost us a lesser band score. So now the final step is the review. So there are how many steps involved in the summary writing? There are total 5 steps involved in the summary writing. What these 5 steps are? These 5 steps are step number one is the idea designing. Step number 2 is the introduction writing. Step number 3 is overview writing. Step number 4 is explanation writing. Step number 5 is the overview. So there are 5 steps involved. So now if we talk about the paragraphing of the question. Paragraphing of the question. Paragraphing. So we talk about the paragraphing. So how many paragraphs would be there? So now I'm taking up the answer from a different context of paragraphing. So nobody should get any confusion. There should not be any confusion about the paragraphs. And this confusion appears or comes up because the steps are 5. Okay. So now there are 4 paras in total. There are 4 paragraphs in the answer. There are 4 paragraphs in the answer that I told you answer for the summary. For the summary task 1. The paragraph number 1. The para number 1 is known as introduction. Para number 1 is introduction. Okay. And para number 2 is known as overview. Overview. The para number 3, this will be the explanation 1. The para number 4, it is explanation 2. So now there are how many paras? 4 paragraphs are there. So introduction, I'm now talking about the timeline. Introduction, about 35 words. And number 2, these are not about, it is 2 minutes. We should be very much well managed about the time. So 2 minutes. So overview, this will be at about 45 to 55 words. And then we will spend 3 minutes on this specific overview. Explanation 1 will be having about 120 words in our answer. And number 2, we will spend 5 minutes here on writing this paragraph. 5 minutes. Explanation 2 will be at about 80 words. I'm sorry. So this is paragraph number 1 of summary, will be at about 100 words. And then come on the explanation 2. The explanation 2 will be at about 60 words. Will be at about the 60 words because we explain more variable in the 3rd paragraph, explanation 1. And less variable in paragraph number 4 means the explanation 2. So now 60 words. And we spent 5 minutes on this one as well. So now, if we talk about the total paragraphs involved in the answer of the summary, para 1, introduction of the 2 minutes. Paragraph number 2 is the overview and it is of 3 minutes. Paragraph number 3 is the explanation of 5 minutes. And then the paragraph number 4 will be of explanation 2 and 5 minutes as well. So if you talk about the total time consumption on the writing, the total time consumption on the writing on this side, the total time consumption on the writing on this side will be about 16 minutes. Let me write here. So it is insert the graphs box and let's draw a box. So I'm going to draw it here. So now what we have said that we are going to design the 4 paragraphs in 2 and 3, 5 and 10, total 15 minutes, total 15 minutes. So where the rest of the minutes are going? The rest 5 minutes, rest 5 minutes will be allocated to number 1, idea designing in the start, and number 2, review of the whole write-up that we have designed. So it is about the structuring of the summary. First, we have to design what? The introduction, then overview, then explanation, then explanation. If we talk about the steps are 5. Idea generation, introduction, overview, explanation, and the review. If we talk about the timeline is that 2 minutes on the introduction, 3 minutes on the overview, 5 minutes on explanation 1, and 5 minutes on explanation 2. The 15 minutes are total the writing time. If we talk about the idea designing time, 2 minutes, 15 plus 2, 17 minutes, and 3 minutes are for the review. That means we are covering 20 minutes in this way. So we have allocated 20 minutes in 6 different steps. 20 minutes, 2 minutes idea generation, and then 2 minutes introduction, 3 minutes overview, 5 minutes explanation 1, 5 minutes explanation 2, and 3 minutes for the review. We have divided the total time of 20 minutes into 4 paragraphs along with idea generation 5 and review number 6. So 6 cheezon mein we have divided 20 minutes in total 6 different things that we are going to perform in the summary exam. I would be very happy to answer. If there is any question, I would like to answer that question to any student. I'm going to stop the recording and I'm taking your questions.